The Picnic podcast sessions are a chance for a deep dive conversation with artists from culturally diverse backgrounds into the complexity of life, work and creating in regional Australia. Think culture, think sharing stories and think food exchange. A long chat over a simple picnic lunch. I'm Lucy Austin, a multidisciplinary creative with Fijian Australian heritage, living on Wiradjuri country in regional New South Wales. Come and join us. All right, so we are here for the Picnic podcast sessions. Welcome, Jerikye Williams.
Thank you very much for having me. How you going?
I'm good, thank you. Now, for those who maybe don't know who you are, I'm going to say that I met you through my project called Intertwined and had the great pleasure and honour of working with you as Aboriginal man in our musical, and you did a stellar job. So I just wanted everybody else to have the chance to hear you have a yarn with me, and because we've had some good ones, haven't we? We've had some good yarns.
A couple of good ones.
So I'm calling in from beautiful Wiradjuri country, which is the birthplace of your mum, am I right?
Yeah, and me.
And you as well. And now you live where?
I'm in just outside of Canberra on Nambury Ngunnawal land.
And so I was so impressed because for Intertwined, you were spending almost 6 hours as a round trip. Is that right, for rehearsals?
Yeah.
Which is a really huge time commitment and effort commitment. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining me today for the Picnic podcast session. So I wanted to start with talking about place, I guess. So what are the places that you've lived in? We've talked about you were born in Cowra. So tell us a little bit more about how you've gone from Cowra to now living down further towards Canberra.
Well, I was born in Cowra and then I lived there for about, I think I was like 8 months before we moved to Queanbeyan, where I am now, and I've been here for almost 23 years.
And does that feel more like home for you now than being in Cowra, or would you say that you still feel home in both places?
No, Cowra will always be home. Recently I've just I don't know why, I've just had the urge to just go home. And it's not where I live. It's Cowra's home.
No, 100%. I really relate to that because when I go back to Lumbassa, where my dad's from in Fiji, even though I wasn't born there, I spent most of my life here in Australia. There's a certain connection that I have there that I only have there. Like, I don't have it here in Cowra, and I don't have it even where I was born in Penrith. I have it in Lumbassa, and it's really hard to put words to that. But I think the places that make us are pretty significant. So I remember you telling me about a place in Cowra, something about the rocks or something on the Galari Billa, the Lachlan River. That's a special place for you. There's some sort of rocks or bend in the river.
Yeah, first and second rocks. I never did it, but back in the day, or like this is only, let's say 15 years ago, I was maybe like 8 or something. But every time we'd be in Cowra, we'd go swimming down the river, and then some of the young fellows would go all the way up to first and second rocks, and they'd jump in, let the current drag them all the way down to the low level.
Wow! So, and how far is that? Like, that's probably a kilometre?
Yeah, kilometre or two. Yeah. And they'd just walk up there and just jump in, and the current would bring them all the way back down.
I love it. I've been there since you told me about it, and it's such a beautiful place. It's really serene. The rocks are really, it's just something about that particular place that's pretty special. So apart from places, like who would you say in terms of people had the biggest impact on you growing up?
Well, probably one person in particular would be my auntie, Maria. Who she gave me, literally put a guitar in my hand when I was about 3, and I just kind of, I don't want to say like forced into it, but it was very influenced, and just so yeah. she'd definitely be one. And then mum, you know, I was a naughty kid, and then she put me in line. Now I am I got to give her a lot of credit. So she'd definitely be up there.
I've had the great privilege of hanging out with your mum, and she's a beautiful person, and I know she's very proud of you, and she's made a lot of sacrifices to support you kids, and particularly in your sort of chosen fields of interest. So I guess that brings us to my next point, which is identity. So tell us a little bit about how you identify the things that interest you, the things that you are passionate about. For anyone who doesn't know who you are. Obviously, you're a First Nations man who is a musician, but like, are there any other ways that you choose to identify?
Deadly, does that count?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Black and Deadly. Well, yeah, you said that, I'm a musician and do a lot of tribute shows to this guy here and another guy, Roy Orbison. But for anyone who doesn't know that I do that, oh, damn, I don't know. You just have to come see one of my shows.
So what's your band called?
Jericho and the Crawdads. The Crawdads, they've been around since I think 75, so this year will be 50 years. Um,
Wow.
and I joined them in, I think it was October of 2022. So remember, yeah, almost 3 years ago, I've been with them, and yeah, we kind of they asked me to join as just a jam, come in and have a jam with them, and I turned around and said, "Well, we're pretty all right. What do you reckon if we got a gig?" And they didn't want to do any gigs at the time, and I kind of talked them into doing it, and well, yeah, ever since then we've been doing shows. So
So describe a show for us. What's a show? What does a show look like if someone was to come and attend one of your shows?
the first half of the first set is just kind of ballads, so you just warm up to it, and then from the second half of the first set onwards for the next 2 hours or something, it's a very energetic show. There's lots of me running around on stage, jumping off stage, getting in people's faces with a guitar and just shredding licks. Sometimes I'll just walk off and tell the band to keep playing. I'll go to the bar and get a beer. And then on my way back, I'll have a boogie with all the crowd and get back on stage, keep rocking out.
It's really good fun. And are they all Elvis and Roy Orbison songs, or are there other covers that you do as well? Do you do your own stuff?
No, I think there's two Orbison songs and maybe three Elvis songs, unless somebody asks for them. Like we'll do it if we, know it. But the majority of it is covers from around about 1955 to 1988, as well as fair few of originals that either I've written or a few other of the band members have written.
So I guess that brings me to asking another question, which is about challenges, right? That where you maybe face living in a regional area, living as a person from a First Nations background, Nations heritage. You've also got this complexity where you're singing songs, performing songs from another whole era, right? Like this is not your kind of contemporary cover song band show that that someone would go and see. You're singing songs from an era that some would call like a bygone era almost, but you love to sing those songs, right? Like, have you copped flack for that? Are there challenges around being a young man who then wants to go in and play in clubs and pubs and where other venues where you're singing songs that aren't contemporary?
Yeah, there's a fair few actually. I used to get asked a lot why you sing all the old stuff. And then I'd tell them that, because it's real music, well, to me, it's real music, And then you'd have a lot of the young ones who would come to our shows and they'd be like, "Oh, no, stuff this. We thought it would be a different show," or. So then we have to figure out, well, how are we going to give a show for everybody, right? So then we do. We've only recently started doing this. We've added a few songs of today's, like probably in the last five years or so. We put those into our set list to cater for um, a younger audience who come to see our shows, but then we also advertise our shows as a retro show. So then you'll get your guaranteed crowd of oldies who grew up with all that stuff and just want to reminisce and all that. And then halfway through the show, we'll say, "Well, here's a new one. We only just learned it, a couple of years old, da 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 da." And then you'll get the young ones on the dance floor. And then once they're on the dance floor, you got to keep them there. And that's a bit challenging, and because sometimes it doesn't always go well. But what can you do?
Do you think that marketing is important, to market to that crowd that will be interested in those genres of music?
100%, because you got to think about all the people that grew up with that music they're getting on in age, so and a lot of them don't go out anymore. So then you've got to think about, okay, well, that'll be our crowd in 10 years, the young ones, right? Let's see if we can keep them here.
Yeah, I love that. So, are there any other challenges that you would say you've faced as a, sometimes you might be the only person of colour maybe in a room where you're entertaining, because I imagine the crowds are not as diverse as, say, if you were performing in Sydney or if you're performing in a bigger metropolitan city. If you're doing a regional show, are there any challenges that you've faced or none?
We've played in a few rough places, and it's predominantly Caucasian people, and a lot of sometimes I've had it like middle of the show, people are just yelling out slurs and just being idiots. But then you just keep playing and you got to pretend like it didn't happen. But then I'd go out into the city where I work and DJ and all that stuff, and then you'll get some people coming in, "Oh, you're not black," or when they ask you like what's your nationality or something, somebody actually asked me to show me their Aboriginality forms one time, and this guy was like whiter than me.
Really?
Yeah.
Was that at a gig or just in like public?
It was out in public. I was standing at the front door of the venue, and they were coming in, and I was going out, and they yelled, "Oh my God, it's Elvis!" Come and got a photo with me, and yeah, he asked me what nationality it was. I said Aboriginal. He goes, "No, you're not." And we literally argued for about 3 minutes over the fact. Yeah.
What do you say to that? Like, if have you got any advice for anyone who's maybe listening in who says, "Oh yeah, that's like I haven't had to face that," or they maybe don't know that that's something that happens? With people kind of questioning your Aboriginality. What's your advice about how to deal with that?
Oh, there's plenty of ways to deal with it, but I have this thing where I can't really, because I've built a reputation for myself. There's very few places I can go without being recognised. Oh, it's Elvis from Canberra or Crawdads, or like I'll be in Sydney and I've been approached and people are like, "Oh, you're that guy from that band, aren't you?" So I've got to look out for that as well. So I can't say anything wrong. But how I handled it, I asked. He said to me he was Aboriginal, so I flipped it on him. I said, "You show me yours." And then he walked off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just kind of just have to laugh at it.
And for anyone who doesn't know, I guess, like I should say, if they're seeing a picture of you right now, say they're seeing video or they're seeing an image of you, how you present, like right now, with your hair done in this manner and your collar up, this is how you are every day. This is not just for this interview. You are This is part of your identity, right? This is it's how you identify. It's just who you are.
Sure is.
You embody, yep, you embody that. So because of those things, do you think that makes it harder? Like when you are like you're an Aboriginal person who looks a little bit like maybe Elvis, but you're in these places that people aren't necessarily expecting to see someone like that. But do you find it's generally speaking accepted well? That you're accepted well. That you go into places and people take you on your merit, and they take you on your skill, and they take you for who you are in that moment.
Yeah, 99% of the time it's always received really well by people, and they love it. They'll come up and ask for pictures, and sometimes they'll sign autographs and stuff. But then you just have to embrace all that, and you don't let anybody put you down. And because like a lot of people will come up to me, oh, why you dress like that? Because I want to.
Yeah.
I don't tell you to dress how you tell me, so just and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if it makes you feel good, just keep doing it.
And do you think part of that is the way you were raised? Like, is that you had that freedom to be who you were? Your mum was able to, she gave you that agency to kind of go, yeah, I allow you to be who you are. Is that something that you feel impacted your life?
100%. And yeah, I think I was about maybe 13 or 14 when I started dressing like this, and started doing my hair up and all that stuff. And I remember in high school, walked into school one day and I had my hair done, and everybody just for the whole day just kept calling me Elvis, and that's how I got the nickname. And then it went on to teachers calling me Elvis, and sometimes I'd be announced for awards at assemblies for as Elvis, it, and then I just embraced it all and just went out and bought some really flash clothes and had some made for me, and I've got some sparkling jackets and jumpsuits and all that stuff, and I remember I wore a jumpsuit out to one of the clubs where I work. Everybody just stopped and just stared. I was like, well, this can go one of two ways. But it was really good. Everybody had a good time, and yeah.
And tell us about your, maybe we can get a photo to put up to share with everyone about the jumpsuit. I think it's a jumpsuit that you wore that's got the Aboriginal flag on it. And I remember seeing that before I'd actually met you. I saw that you were performing somewhere. I don't know if it was a NAIDOC week thing. I can't remember, but do you know the photo I'm talking about?
The red jumpsuit, and it had the Aboriginal flag was the belt.
Maybe. I thought
Yeah.
it was on your back, but maybe it was the belt. Yeah,
Um.
okay.
Yeah. No, I had the Aboriginal flag as the belt, and jumpsuit had like what's the word? Embroidered on goannas for my totem, just on two on the chest, and there was a big one on the back, and then it was rhinestones galore. It had gold flares. What else? It had a cape, red cape matching cape with heaps of rhinestones on it. It was, I think it weighs about maybe 25 kilos. So you put it on, and then you start sweating, and it gets heavier. And then
Wow, that's heavy, man. Far out. And you're like playing full sets of music, guitaring and jumping around stages wearing that as
yeah,
well.
if I'm doing an Elvis show, I'll have the jumpsuit on for probably about an hour and a half, and by the end of it, you just can't wait to get it off.
Wow. All right. So we've kind of covered like people and place, and we've covered identity and some challenges. What about we talked a little bit about connection, but I guess the connection that you have with your crawdads band members, that's pretty important to you.
Yeah, considering that they've been around forever, and then they asked me to join. That was pretty cool, and uh, I think we've grown a good fan base since we started doing shows. And I don't want to bring the mood down, but if one of them cark it, because the oldest is 72 and the youngest of them, not including me, is 50. So one of them cark it.
Wow.
I'll be pretty devo, and
Yeah, they're like a family, aren't they, to
yeah,
you? They've been really supportive and yeah. How important is it to have that level of community, do you think, whether that's in music or, community culturally or family, whatever, however people get community? How important is that in your life, do you reckon?
I think just being around people who have a really good, mindset and really good vibe and just bring you up. Yeah, you just surround yourself with people like that, and then you go out in the community, and then you do the same to just random people. You say good day, it makes their day. They could be having the worst day of their life, and all you got to do is just say, "How hope you have a good day." And that's like here in Queanbeyan, like everybody knows everybody. I'm glad that I still live in a community where you can go and ask your next door neighbor for a cup of sugar. You know, not there's not many like that anymore.
No, that's true. That's really good. It's important, and I think it is one of the real benefits and kind of blessings of living in a regional town is that or regional area is that there is that smaller town mindset means that people know each other.
Mm.
Sometimes they might know a little bit more of your business than you'd like, but
Yeah,
other times it's like a real kindness and a caring thing. I've been with you in Canberra and walking through the city centre or
yeah.
something, and people stopping you and saying g'day and that they've seen you at some gig, and people posing. You've posed with people, young kids, photos. They want a selfie with you, and it blows me away. There's something special about the way that you do uplift people, and that can just be even complete strangers. There's something about the way that you present, I think, that makes people feel comfortable and joyful. There is a joy around that. You can see that, which is really cool. So, all right. So if we move on to now, so where are you right now in your arts career? Like, what's sort of happening for you? What has happened recently? Any highlights and anything for the future that you're looking forward to?
The most recent thing that's happened, as far as the crawdads go, we've done our first show of the year. We took a bit of time off from doing shows this year. So our first show was a couple of weeks ago here in Queanbeyan, and that was pretty cool because the crowd we had was all disabled people, and some were in motorized wheelchairs, some had Down syndrome and all that. So, and then as soon as the music started, they all got on the dance floor and had the time of their lives. And that's what makes me want to keep going with music, and just putting smiles on people's faces. Makes me feel like I've done my job right. Um, and then at the start of the year, at the end of January, uh, I went on tour. Well, it was actually, so I was only supposed to do one show with these guys, the Black Sorrows, Joe Camilleri. We did a show at the Barrel Bowling Club end of January, and then the next day, their manager, I think it is, sent me an email and gave me about four or five more dates. So we did a mini tour with them. And that was pretty
So
cool.
good.
Went all up and down the north and south coast.
That's awesome. Any standout shows for you?
We did a show in Thirroul at a place called Anita's Theatre, and I'm really glad that I couldn't see the crowd with all these lights just in my face because it was only me. I didn't have the crawdads with me. It was just I did it solo. And then by the end of the first song, what did I sing? I sang "Only the Lonely," Roy Orbison, and there's a really high note at the end of it. And if you don't nail that, you may as well just walk off stage then. And I always open every show I do with that song, so it's like, well, if you can do this, well, how's the rest of the show going to be? That's how I want to leave the audience. Anyway, the crowd went up, and then I asked for the lights to come up, the house lights. There was about 800 people sitting there, and all I could see was about 3 people in the front row, and I was
Yeah,
crapping
wow.
myself because backstage you've got Joe Camilleri sitting there watching you. You don't know if he's judging you or what the hell's this guy doing? But in my head, I had to put a better show on than they would. So, and then we did. There was a show, pardon me, down at Tulpa Valley Winery where your parents came to see me.
They did. They loved it.
It was good to catch up with them,
Wow.
and I got my vanilla slice.
Oh, that's awesome. How good. Um, all right. So, what about? I'm going to ask you another question, which is, do you have any arts goals? Like, are there anything moving? Like, so that's right now. You're kind of back in with the Crawdads. You're doing a couple shows. You did the Black Sorrows. Is there anything else sort of in the immediate future that you're aiming for, or are you happy with just the way things are at the moment? Because you DJ as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, I do. So I've only just started DJing. I work for one of the other DJs who's got his own company, Complete Entertainment. Good guy. It's awesome. Been doing a lot of functions, um, but in for the future, not much actually. No, to look forward to.
Not yet.
Nah, not yet. Um,
I was just going to ask you about Intertwined and say, so that was your first theatrical, that was your theatrical debut, right? Like you'd never been on the stage apart from singing for music, which had obviously given you a huge upper hand because you have that experience of being on a stage. But you'd never acted, you'd never had to learn a script, you'd never workshopped, especially this particular thing was a new work of Australian theatre. So there was lots of workshopping involved. How did you find that? I guess in a nutshell, and do you want to do any more theatre?
I'm pretty sure when you first rang me, I said to you I didn't want to do it, and yeah, I had no interest in doing it for ages, and I tried to get out of doing it for a long time, and then I was like, oh no, may as well. It'd be pretty cool. And then we started to really get into the script, and yeah, that was stressing me out because I was like, I'm gonna forget all this stuff. And I remember asking you for a teleprompter, and someone did a sit or like an earpiece or something. Um, but yeah, in the end, we got there, and it was pretty cool. And that whole cast was just a bundle of joy to work with.
Absolutely, very special time in my life, and I think in most of our lives that we got to meet each other. It did feel like again another example of creating a family in that sense. Creating a community that felt like family. Um, and so, do you want to do any more acting, or was that a one-off thing for you? Do you think?
Well, I thought about it, and I've had conversations with you about doing some more work, but I don't know. Only time will tell, I guess.
You're open to it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, let's just say that. If
I love
if I
that.
have to do it, I will.
I love it. I love it. Well, what about inspiration? If we move on to thinking about, maybe things that happen in the future, maybe you do your own sort of, you've talked about writing your own things. That sometimes you write music yourself. What inspires you the most in general, maybe, but also in terms of writing and creating? What inspires you?
As far as writing music goes, I usually write about things that have happened to me or things that people can relate to. So the majority of the songs that I've written are either about lost love or heartbreak and all that stuff. So they're really like kind of sad if songs, but everybody can relate to it in some way or another. So I think that yeah, that kind of keeps me going because I've had my heart broken a few times, and now I've met my beautiful girlfriend Haley. Um, Shout out to her. How you going? But yeah, she's just really put me into place a bit, and it's like in a good way. It's just like got just got her priorities straight, and now I've got mine straight, and yeah,
Love that for you. That's so good. Just keeping you humble, hey?
sometimes.
All right, tell me what your biggest, scariest, wildest artistic dream is, or just dream in general. But what would you say is right up there? If money was no object, if time and energy and effort, all of those things were no object and no limitations, what's your biggest, wildest, scariest dream?
I think I think the scariest, like in reality, dream would probably becoming hopefully massively famous. I think the way I look at it, it's scary because you lose all your privacy, and all that stuff, and you can't do anything without anybody watching you. You know, I think not succeeding is scary.
As in, when you say succeeding, do you mean on a big scale? Like, do you see what you're doing now as succeeding? That you can, you know, basically pay your way through life by doing music. To me, that's a sign of success. Is that a measure of success for you, or is fame and notoriety, like being recognised, is that more of there's no right or wrong. It's just like, what is it for you that is that measure of success? Do you think?
Well, what I'm doing now, that I would count that as succeeding, and having little bit of fame and notoriety never hurt, But I think for me, because it's taken not a long time, but a while to get my name out there, and now people across the country know who I am, and reach out for me to do shows and all that stuff. So I think that's a big success for me because about 5 years ago I would never have thought about it.
Mm. And are you self-taught? Like, when you started music, I know your auntie was influential in kind of getting you to undertake it. And she's a musician, right? Like, she
Yeah.
plays herself. Like, did you have lessons and stuff, or did you just start your own, yourself?
Well, she taught me a few chords on the guitar. And the first song I learned was Bad Men Rise, and she taught me that. And then I think I was about maybe 6 or 7. I had one guitar lesson, and the guy taught me what I already knew. So I was like, nah, stuff this. And then I put the guitar down for a little bit until I got into high school, got into music classes and all that stuff, and can't read music, so I did everything by ear, and I taught myself. Yeah.
And the actual, like, there's a level of showmanship that you have, that you can't teach that, right? I think that level of charisma and the way that you present on a stage, the way that you engage with a crowd, you can't take your eyes off you when you're up on a stage, right? So, like, is that something that you learnt by watching Elvis? Is it something you think you were influenced by Roy Orbison? Like, or is it just who you are? You're born like that.
I'd like to say I was born like that, but it's not true. No, definitely, like Elvis's stage presence was just all he'd had to do was walk out on stage. You wouldn't even have to do anything, and you'd have everybody screaming at him and go nuts. So and then a lot of the moves we used to do on stage, tucking himself around, swiveling his hips, his pelvis, and all that stuff. I kind of adopted that, but put it into my own little thing. So it's kind of a nod to Elvis, but I wouldn't say it's like a direct rip-off because I don't want to get sued. But 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 yeah, I'm just watching clips of like the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, and how they carried on stage. I put that into my shows, and even just daily life. Even if I'm not on stage, somebody will walk past me and go, "Hey, Elvis, how you going, baby? Thank you very much." And just walk out and say that.
It's brilliant. I love it. What about you talked about a nod to Elvis. Is there a nod to culture for you that you put into your shows or put into your work in some way, into your art? Is there a nod to your cultural heritage?
I've got all my guitar straps of the Indigenous artwork on it, and we do a few songs in the Crawdads where one of them's got a little bit of language in there. Another one that my auntie and uncle wrote, Harry Williams and the Country Outcasts, called Streets of Old Fitzroy, and that song's about um, moving away from country to the city, and just longing to go back home and have a corroboree and just have fun with all the mob.
Be on country. And is that something that, as a person, like for you, and we talked about this with Intertwined because that was the story of Aboriginal man was that he takes his culture wherever he goes. It's inside of him, and that becomes part of who he is. Is that something that you relate to?
100%. And a lot of the times that I'll wear, I've got this outfit where it's half red, half black jacket, and I'll have a black shirt underneath and a yellow tie, so it's the Aboriginal flag colours, and wear that on stage. And yeah, I guess no matter where I go, I'll always have a bit of country with me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. All right, so wrapping up, is there anything that you would like to see changed in the country? So, like, there's controversial things about being a person of color, black man. Is there anything that's a little bit controversial that you would like to see some change happen?
There's a lot actually, but I'm not very political,
Yep.
so.
Do you think that being in a country town, there's not always a lot of representation, right? And you don't always see a lot of how many other performing Aboriginal artists are there that you see?
Oh, not locally. There's probably maybe like two or three,
Yeah.
including me. Until you get out to the big cities and all the ones that have made it, and then you've got the ones that are trying to make it.
Is it important that younger Aboriginal kids see other people performing, or do you think it doesn't actually matter? They just see an artist.
No, I think predominantly young Aboriginal kids, if they see, let's say, Jessica Mauboy, she's a proud Aboriginal woman, and let's say they go to one of her shows and it's like, well, she's black, she got there, I can do that too. That's how I want to have like an influence on young fellas too. So
Yeah, I love that. I think representation's something that's really important. I still remember growing up as a kid, and there were just a handful of, for me, people of color that I could see on TV, and I wanted to be an actor. And I really gravitated towards watching those people because I felt like it was achievable because I could see them doing it. So I think representation is really important. I'm just always interested in what other people what other people think about that as well. So that's really cool to hear your take on that.
I think that's also goes for when we did Intertwined as well. Like when we did the workshops, we had all those high school kids asking questions at us, and I had a group who all live in Cowra and all born in Cowra, and we had a group that had never heard of a Ramby, and then until they saw the show.
And just explain what a Ramby is for any listeners who are listening in.
Well, the Ramby Mission 32 acres is in Cowra, and it's was an Aboriginal reserve set up for them way back when, and it was pretty crap, they had managers up there, you had to ask to leave the mission, ask to go onto the mission, rations, they had all that stuff, and all those kids, they didn't, they're not taught this in school, and I think getting that out there through Aboriginal Man put a little, what do they call it, insight, is that the word? They've
Yeah.
put it into them, and hopefully, that gets stuck in their head and think like, oh, well, what can we do different? How can we make the world better for when we get to that age, or you know.
And how important is it to know our history, do you think, as a nation in general, to know the complexities of the good and bad of what has happened here? And yeah, like, I guess truth telling, like, how would you rate that? Is it important?
100%, heaps important, and I think like Australia's history is. I kind of like only just thought of this, but it's kind of like when scientists, they know more about space than the ocean. They only know about 3% of the ocean, and the rest is all known. It's like Australia. There's only so much that people know, and they don't know the full story. So if that gets taught properly, it'd be all cool.
The idea of the picnic podcast sessions, was to basically have a conversation, a deep dive conversation over a meal, a picnic, which, because we're, remotely, we're doing this remotely, we don't have the opportunity to do. However, I did say I would ask you about your favourite childhood food. Like, was there a food that you loved, or something that makes you feel like home?
Lamb crumb cutlets, because every year for my birthday, since I was like maybe 4 or 5, I'd have crumb cutlets, and they would always be from Cowra. So
Nice.
I know
Cara lamb.
100%. And I'd being here in Queanbeyan and Canberra, I'd go to all the butchers, and they all get their meat from Cowra.
Wow.
Right? Even like butchers and restaurants up in Sydney and Queensland, they get all their meat from Cowra. And if I go to somewhere that doesn't have Cowra lamb, then I'm not eating it.
So, okay, do you have mash with it? What do you have? Like, what are your sides that you have with your lamb cutlets? And do you have to crumb them in a certain way?
No, you just buy them crumbed.
Gotcha.
Yeah, or you can crumb them yourself, but I'll get the pre-crumb ones, and then you just fry them up in the pan. Chuck on some mashed potato. Sometimes you'll have mashed chips and salad. Right, you do all that and gravy.
What's your kind of gravy of choice?
Just gravy. Yeah. But Mum has they'll have Diane sauce and all that stuff, and or pepper steak. Is that what? No, pepper sauce and all that.
Yep.
But I'm
Nice.
just a gravy guy.
You're just a gravy guy. I love it. Now, two things I'm just going to get you to talk about. One is, before we wrap up, where can people find out more about Jerikye Williams and about the Crawdads? How can people connect with you?
Well, we don't have a website yet. It's in the process of getting done up. But if you want to find out about the Crawdads, just go into Facebook and type in Jerikye and the Crawdads. It's Jerikye. And then if you just want to find out just some random info on me, just put my name into Google, Jerikye Williams, and pretty much there's like a whole bunch of articles that'll come up. And so, yeah.
And I'll link to it in the show notes for people if they want to follow along. And I guess one sentence to sum up who you are and what your goals are as an artist, or what you like to do in the world. How would you sum that up? It's a big question, I know, but like, give us one parting sentence about Jerikye Williams.
Black and deadly, and wants to be more famous than this fella.
That's so spot on for you. I love it. Jerikye Williams, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing what your future holds.
Thank you very much.
Can you say thank you very much, though, as Albert?
I knew that was coming. Thank you very much, baby.
I love it. That's so great.